let's dig a little deeper now into the Israel-Hamas war. More than 6 months in, efforts to come to a truce ongoing. The recent clash between Israel and Iran ramped up the risk of wider conflict. And while that has eased, if it ever came to pass, the global economy could lose $1 trillion. That's according to new research from Bloomberg Intelligence and Bloomberg Economics. Let's get into it a little bit more now. For analysis, we're joined by Salih Yilmaz, senior energy analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence. So, Salih, what are the four main scenarios for the Middle East conflict that you came to in your report?
Sure. So, firstly, this was a very close collaboration with our colleagues at Bloomberg Economics, especially Ziad Daoud here in Dubai. And what we have in this report are secondary effects of the conflict, which are, again, of course, not top of mind and secondary to the human cost that we've already seen. But we have two escalatory and two non-escalatory scenarios in our report. And in the non-escalatory ones, we have the confined war, which is the prevailing one where we are right now. And we haven't actually seen a big oil price impact in this one or a macro one. So from here, if we go to a potential ceasefire scenario, for that reason, we don't expect a big change, big correction in oil prices or a big impact on macro. But of course, this would reduce the human cost, which would be great for the region. In the escalatory scenarios, we could see a proxy war between Israel and Iran, and this could push oil prices towards $100 a barrel with a more meaningful impact on macro. But in the more extreme scenario of a direct war between Israel and Iran, this is where we have the increased risk of direct attacks on energy facilities and potential closure of Strait of Hormuz. And this is when we have potentially oil prices at as high as $150 a barrel. And this, according to the Bloomberg Economics model, could actually cost the global GDP about $1 trillion, which would tip the world economy into recession.
That would absolutely be the worst case scenario. What about OPEC plus scenarios, though, in each of these cases?
So I think what OPEC Plus must be focusing on right now is market fundamentals. And as I mentioned, in the confined war scenario, we haven't really seen any supply disruption. So they're looking at supply. They're also looking at demand. And most of the price support that we've seen this year seems to have been mostly demand-driven rather than supply. But of course, important to note is that they are sitting on a good chunk of spare capacity. So if they had to, they haven't had to so far, but if they had to, they have the room to bring more barrels into the markets.
If they had to. What sectors are most impacted in your scenarios?
So in the non-escalatory ones, even in the confined war scenario that we've been in, we've already seen shipping, as you've heard Maersk talk about as well. A lot of the Asian vessel owners have been impacted. Freight rates went up and they've actually benefited from that. And also, even in this scenario, we've had refining margins benefit, especially the ones in Europe, especially the ones in the Mediterranean. If the war were to escalate, of course, then we would have much bigger impact on oil and gas. And of course, then oil and gas companies would benefit from this as long as their production is not disrupted.
Salih, thank you so much. Salih Yilmaz, our senior energy analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence.